we're born into this world and all we know is the wholeness of ourselves. We are a me. There is no parts of ourselves that we reject at the moment of birth. It happens over time. So as we grow, little sparks of desire, little sparks of individuality emerge. And we have all these special parts of us. It's how we interact with the world. It's what we do. It's what we know. It's our individuality. And it's what makes us special. Everything that makes you an individual makes you special. And every part of you when you were young was included in your own definition of me. If something was your desire, if something was your want, your need, or action, whatever it was, if you produced it, you owned it. And over time, those pieces of you emerged as actions. So you might give a friend a snack and because they didn't have their own snack, and that was something special and individual that came from you. Maybe as you got older, you saw that your sister didn't have as many friends as you, and so instead of going out with your own friends, you might stay home to keep that sister company. And there was a piece of cake left and you decided not to have it and save it for your dad because he had been working a long hours and you wanted him to have a piece of cake when he got home. These are all behaviors that we might observe in a child. These are all types of things that you might have done when you were little. Maybe not these specific things, but specific things that made you special and came from the goodness of who you were. And what happened when you acted on those special acts or sparks of individuality is your behaviors were observed by adults that you loved and respected. The behaviors we just talked about that would be considered probably societally objectively good were affirmed as good, and they were labeled. And because as children growing up, we want the affirmation of adults that we love and respect, we owned those parts that they labeled as good. And what that looked like is, we were giving, we were kind, we were selfless. And as we owned it, we grew those parts of ourselves, meaning we made those a bigger part of our identity. And then besides having these attributes that the adults around us really approved of, we also had other behaviors that had they not interacted with us, we would have owned equally. So maybe one day that same sister you were willing to stay home with because she didn't have as many friends was just so annoying that you didn't let her go to the mall with your friends. Or on another day, you decide that you're tired and you decide to watch TV all day. Now, these are behaviors of a child or an emerging adult learning about themselves and learning what works for them and what doesn't. But what happens a lot of times is that when those behaviors are observed by adults that we love and respect, those behaviors are affirmed as bad and labeled accordingly. And because we don't want to be judged as bad, we disown those parts of ourselves. So, for instance, where we are laying on the couch all day watching TV, we're labeled as selfish or as lazy. And if we're refusing to let our sister come to the mall with us, then we are labeled as selfish. And because those don't feel good to us, we want to get rid of them. And so we decide that is not me. And we work really hard to not show up that way. And so lazy and selfish gets put in the not me category. And the challenge with that is has a lot of layers to it. First of all, those behaviors weren't objectively lazy or selfish. Maybe they were viewed that way, but the reality is that there was a lot of good, healthy interaction in that child's relationship to him or herself that would have led to those behaviors. But because those behaviors were labeled as something negative, everything that went along with those behaviors got grouped under the lazy and selfish ideal, and they got pushed away. But they exist. And so all those parts that exist within us are still within us. And so to keep them in that not me concept for ourselves, we spend time and energy resisting those parts of ourselves. And truly that resistance is, in my opinion, the biggest block to us receiving. You know, there's all these tools and tricks to manifest, and this to me is really at the heart of why much of what the universe has already started flowing to you isn't showing up in your life. It's this resistance that you put to not accepting, to not allowing in different parts of yourself. And this is where that originated from. So as I said, we spend energy each day resisting natural parts of ourselves. And that resistance blocks receiving. And here's probably the more detrimental effect to it, is that it blocks the help from the parts of you that are just as valid and special as the parts that you already embrace. So the part of a person that wants to lay on the couch and watch TV that was deemed label is the part that understands how to slow down and rest. So if you've ever felt like, I don't want to be lazy, I want to do, I will hustle, I will do the work, whatever that is, you're doing that because you have rejected some version of yourself that was deemed lazy, or that some adult made you think was lazy. The problem is that piece of you that you're pushing out of your consciousness is actually the piece that knows how to slow down and rest. And what I see with most people that have receiving issues, they do not rest enough. And that's because we haven't included the part of us that even knows how to make that happen. And the part of a person who would leave someone out because they're annoying is the same part of that person who knows how to set healthy boundaries. So if you never want to be seen as the bad person that would reject someone or alienate someone, and you really, stake your crown on inclusion, which inclusion as a global concept is beautiful, but not every person deserves your time and attention. And if you have always tried to show up as that person who's taking care of everyone or is including everyone or whatever that is, you're probably pushing that part of you out that wouldn't do that naturally. And that's the healthy part that understands how to set boundaries. And so two things happen when we've got these not me parts of us. The first is we're spending energy and resistance, which is blocking all receiving. And then we're lacking help from the parts of us that can really bring balance and beauty and love and support into our life. So how do we become whole? In order to recapture this innate wisdom to create wholeness in our life, we need to invite those parts back in. By releasing our resistance to who we truly are, we also allow in all the money, love, support, and goodness that's been flowing to us. So as we start to bring those parts of us back in, that's when the not me starts to disappear. And those pieces of us that were originally standing outside of ourselves starts to move from within. And that is the work that we're doing in this week of the Receiving School.